Welcome to Alpha Insights. I'm Asher. Today we're digging into some fresh policy noise hitting the cannabis sector, the kind that can make good companies look shaky overnight. With me is Kate, our fixed income specialist who keeps an eye on how policy and capital markets collide. Hi, Kate. And remember, if you have questions as we go, you can ask us at stockalpha.ai.
Great to be here, Asher. Lots to unpack. Policy headlines, an odd mix of risk, and a few pockets of positive financing. Happy to walk through what matters for investors.
Okay, let's start with the loudest item. South Carolina. Law enforcement leaders asked lawmakers to ban intoxicating hemp products rather than regulate them. That sounds technical, but what does it actually mean for companies and investors?
Good question. At the core, it's about products made from hemp that contain novel cannabinoids. They're not technically marijuana, but some mimic marijuana's effects. If South Carolina moves to ban those products outright, companies that make or sell hemp-derived cannabinoid items could lose access to that market. For investors, that translates into shorter revenue runway in affected states, higher compliance costs, and potentially a scramble to change product lines or distribution.
So this is less about plant taxonomy and more about who gets to sell what, where. Could that idea spread to other states?
Exactly. Policy tends to ripple. If one state adopts a ban, others may watch and replicate language. That's why this isn't merely a local story. It's a template risk. Companies heavily exposed to hemp-derived cannabinoid revenue should be monitored closely. Investors might ask, what percentage of revenue comes from those products, and how easily can the company pivot?
Pivoting brings costs. Now, Illinois was in the headlines for something different, long delays in expunging marijuana convictions. Why does that matter to markets?
That's about the implementation gap. When states legalize, they often include social equity measures like sealing or expunging prior convictions. If the courts and agencies are slow, people who were supposed to benefit don't see results, and that fuels political and reputational pressure. From an investor standpoint, stalled reforms can lead to renewed legislative scrutiny or changes that affect licensing, community relations, and ultimately operations. It's a reminder that passing a law is one thing, executing it is another.
So, delays can reignite controversies and create regulatory uncertainty. Switching gears slightly, Decibel closed a $61 million credit facility with ATB Financial. That's good news for them, right?
Yes, for Decibel, that's constructive. Access to $61 million gives the company breathing room to fund product and distribution plans in a tough Canadian market. But it's company-specific. It doesn't mean the entire Canadian cannabis market is suddenly healthy. Think of it as one operator securing short-term liquidity, a positive sign for Decibel, neutral for the sector unless others show similar access.
So capital markets remain a lifeline for these firms. I also noticed Maryland extended a psychedelics task force through 2027. Why are we talking about psychedelics on a cannabis update?
Psychedelics sit adjacent to cannabis in the regulatory and therapeutic reform space. When a state actively studies or moves toward medical frameworks for psychedelics, it signals a continued appetite for drug policy reform more broadly. That momentum can attract investor interest and policy expertise that spills into cannabis reform. But the effects are uneven. Some states move faster on psychedelics, some on cannabis.
Practical question for listeners. What should investors be watching in the coming weeks?
Focus on a few catalysts. 1. State legislative calendars. Watch South Carolina for draft bill language on hemp-derived intoxicants. 2. Implementation updates in places like Illinois. Are expungements speeding up or stalling? 3. Capital moves. Keep an eye on financing, credit facilities, and equity raises, especially from Canadian licensed producers. And 4. Sector leadership and flows. Monitor the advisor shares Pure U.S. Cannabis ETF, Truliev, Green Thumb Industries, Curaleaf, and Tilray brands for shifts in investor sentiment and ETF flows.
If someone holds names with big hemp-derived product exposure, what would you recommend they do right now?
Be selective. Step 1. Check revenue exposure to hemp-derived products and state-by-state sales footprints. Step 2. Evaluate balance sheet strength and access to capital. Companies with secure capital are better positioned to weather regulatory shocks. Step 3. Consider hedging or trimming exposure if you lack conviction on the company's compliance playbook. And step 4, stay nimble. Policy headlines can move prices quickly, so set rules for when you'll reassess.
Great, that's practical. Before we wrap, any final thoughts on the tone for the sector?
The tone is cautious. Regulatory and implementation risks are front and center. There are bright spots like secured financing for some firms and ongoing policy attention in adjacent areas, but headline risk will likely keep volatility elevated. Investors are best served by focusing on companies with clear compliance strategies and robust capital access.
Perfect. Let's close with 3 quick takeaways for listeners.
Takeaway 1. A potential ban on intoxicating hemp products in South Carolina could reduce market access and may set a template for other states. Takeaway 2. Implementation delays, like Illinois expungement backlogs, will create political and reputational risks that can affect operators. Takeaway 3. Company-level financing wins, such as Decibel's $61 million facility, are positive but don't erase broader policy-driven uncertainty.
If you have questions about anything we discussed today, you can ask us directly at stockalpha.ai. We answer listener questions live. And for more market insights, head over to stockalpha.ai. Thanks, Kate. And thanks everyone for listening to Alpha Insights.